Thank you.
Yes, a question that flows from two events that we saw recently that we wouldn't have seen at previous White Houses. The first was the campaign meeting in the Cabinet Room last month, and then the political speech in the Rose Garden this week. Can you talk about your understanding of what the White House policy is for this White House as far as politics? Is there any place in the White House where you think politics is inappropriate? I mean, where do you draw the line?
We act in accordance with the Hatch Act. It's well established that the president and vice president are not subject to the Hatch Act. It says this much in the Hatch Act. It says that the Hatch Act applies to executive branch employees, which is defined in the Hatch Act as employee, meaning any individual other than the president and the vice president. So his speech in the Rose Garden was entirely appropriate.
The Hatch Act has nothing to do with this, though.
What? It has everything to do with this. Go read the Hatch Act. That's what you're alleging is problematic for the president. But your real problem was the fact that the president gave a very good, powerful speech from the Rose Garden.
This question for Kayleigh came in response to an all-too-predictable bait-and-switch by Trump. On Wednesday, he held what was billed as a press conference that immediately devolved into a rabid campaign rally. At one point, Trump even claimed that Joe Biden was anti-window.
Mandate net zero carbon emissions for homes, offices, and all new buildings by 2030. That basically means no windows, no nothing. It's very hard to do. I tell people when they want to go into some of these buildings, how are your eyes? Because they won't be good in 5 years. And I hope you don't mind cold office space in the winter and warm office space in the summer, because your air conditioning is not the same as the good old days.
Apparently now, in addition to abolishing the suburbs, the police, statues, the flag, the military, Mount Rushmore, and our heritage as a whole, the Democrats are also coming for your windows. Aside from his own self-sabotaging talking points, there's also the fact that federal funds aren't supposed to be used for campaign events. And while this was billed as a press conference, that's not in the slightest what it actually was. It was an hour-long rant fear-mongering specifically about Joe Biden. Taxpayers funded this event. You went to work and paid money to the IRS so that Trump could set up a primetime speech where he claimed that Joe Biden was coming to take your windows away. It's telling too that Kayleigh's defense of all of this is just to claim that it wasn't illegal by invoking the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act basically prevents executive branch employees from engaging in certain forms of political activity. She notes that it doesn't apply to the president, which is correct, but this isn't a matter of the Hatch Act, it's a matter of using federal tax dollars for an ambush campaign rally that we all paid for. So Kayleigh can deflect to the Hatch Act, but per usual, that doesn't absolve the president. In a world where Donald Trump, the supposed law and order president, actually cared about law and order, that kind of event would be paid for by the campaign and wouldn't take place on government property under the guise of a government press conference. But A, the notion that Trump actually cares about the law is laughable at best, and B, the only thing he does care about is campaign rallies. The guy is so desperate for adulation that he held a rally in Tulsa at the peak of that state's outbreak. A rally that he mistakenly believed 1 million people would be attending. I mean, you might as well just guarantee everyone that they're gonna get coronavirus at the door. And yet, because that was such a glaring bust, Trump is now taken to tricking people into attending his rallies, billing them as press briefings, only to then launch into his usual unhinged rants fear-mongering about Democrats. I guess he figured that since people aren't showing up to his rallies, at least he knows he's guaranteed some reporters in the Rose Garden. But the point here is that this administration has proven it will stop at nothing to try and force-feed the American people their propaganda. Whether it's holding campaign rallies in the middle of a raging pandemic or tricking us into watching them from the Rose Garden, their priority isn't solving the issues facing us today. It's not establishing a nationwide testing or contact tracing system. It's not producing more PPE. It's not issuing guidance for a nationwide mask mandate. It's not advocating for social distancing or stay-at-home orders. It's not working to make sure children are safe as schools are set to reopen. The only thing they're concerned with is getting Donald Trump in front of a microphone so that he can scare the American people about what a Joe Biden presidency would look like. The irony, of course, being that with this pandemic and a recession and mass unemployment and civil unrest, rarely have we lived through a worse time than what we're living through right now. This is the worst case scenario that Trump is fear-mongering about, and it's happening because of him. And don't forget to listen to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I'll take a deep dive into the biggest issues of the week and interview major players in the world of politics, like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Beto O'Rourke, Eric Swalwell, Katie Porter, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.